The oppressive presence of Zivec patrol drones hovered over the icy Arctic wasteland as Dr. Evelyn Cade pulled her hood tighter against the biting wind. The expedition had taken weeks of planning, bribes, and covert communication within the Resistance. The Dominion's grip on Earth was suffocating, but Evelyn had learned to work in the shadows, smuggling both people and secrets past their iron fist. "Dr. Cade, we're almost there," said Connor, her assistant and one of the few she trusted. His breath fogged in the freezing air as he gestured to the jagged opening of a newly revealed ice cavern. Dominion mining had destabilized the permafrost, exposing the ancient structure beneath. Evelyn nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. Rumors of a Lithari relic had circulated for years, but most dismissed them as legend. Still, her instincts told her this was no ordinary find. As they descended into the cavern, the shimmering walls of ice reflected faint pulses of light emanating from the depths, guiding them like a beacon. "This is it," Evelyn whispered, stopping before a towering structure buried halfway in the ice. It was a monolithic obelisk, etched with intricate alien patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. At its center glowed a swirling orb of energy, suspended in defiance of gravity. Connor reached out cautiously. "Is it safe?" "Probably not," Evelyn admitted. She approached the obelisk, her gloves brushing against its surface. The artifact reacted instantly, sending a low hum through the air. The icy cavern trembled, and a wave of warmth radiated outward, melting frost and revealing more of the structure. The orb pulsed, projecting a holographic star map into the cavern. Evelyn recognized Earth's position, marked with a red glyph, and dozens of others scattered across the galaxy. Lines connected them in a complex web, converging on a central point far beyond Dominion-controlled space. "Unity," the artifact whispered in a language Evelyn could somehow understand. "What does that mean?" Connor asked, his voice shaking. Evelyn didn't answer. She couldn't. Her mind raced with possibilities. The Lithari were thought to have vanished millennia ago, leaving behind only myths and ruins. If this artifact was real, it could be the key to a weapon, or a technology, powerful enough to challenge the Dominion. Their moment of awe was shattered by a high-pitched whine. "Dominion scanners." "They're coming," Connor hissed. Evelyn grabbed the artifact, wincing as its energy surged through her body. The obelisk dimmed, but the orb shrank into a small, portable sphere. "We're taking this." The ground shook violently as Dominion dropships descended outside the cavern. Armed soldiers in sleek, black armor disembarked, their boots crunching the snow. "We have orders to seize the Lithari relic. Surrender it now, and you may live," boomed a cold, metallic voice. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Connor. "Run." The next moments were chaos. Blaster fire erupted, carving glowing trails through the ice as Evelyn and Connor bolted for an escape tunnel. The artifact pulsed in her arms, and a sudden energy wave erupted, shorting out Dominion drones in pursuit. "Go, go," Connor yelled as they burst into the frigid night. A stolen snowcrawler waited nearby. They leaped aboard, engines roaring to life as Dominion ships closed in from above. As they sped into the tundra, Evelyn looked back at the glowing horizon. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope. The Resistance had a chance. The snowcrawler roared through the Arctic wilderness, its treads kicking up sprays of frost as Evelyn clutched the artifact tightly against her chest. The icy air burned her lungs with every breath, but the warmth emanating from the Lithari sphere was a stark contrast, pulsing faintly as though alive. "Faster, Connor," she shouted, glancing over her shoulder. Above, the Dominion's sleek pursuit ships descended, their searchlights sweeping across the tundra. A sharp whine pierced the air as energy blasts rained down, each shot narrowly missing the snowcrawler and detonating in the ice, sending chunks flying into the night. "This thing doesn't exactly come with a turbo mode," Connor shouted back, wrestling with the controls. Evelyn pressed a button on her comlink. "This is Cade. We've got the artifact, but the Dominion is right on top of us. I need extraction now." Static crackled in response, followed by a familiar voice. "Dr. Cade, this is Commander Dax Mitchell. You better hold that thing tight, because I'm not risking my neck for scraps." "Then you'd better turn around, because this is no scrap," she snapped, ducking as another explosion rocked the snowcrawler. "We need cover." Dax's voice was calm, but laced with urgency. "Head to the coordinates I'm sending. There's an old mining shaft nearby. Dominion scans won't penetrate the rock. I'll be there in 5. Connor swerved hard, the snowcrawler skidding toward a jagged outcrop. Evelyn braced herself as the vehicle plunged into a narrow crevasse, ice scraping its sides. Above, the Dominion ships hovered uncertainly before pulling back, their sensors temporarily fooled by the terrain. "That bought us a few seconds," Connor panted, skidding to a halt near a rusted lift descending into the earth. "But they'll figure it out soon." Evelyn leaped out, gripping the artifact as they scrambled toward the lift. With a screech of protesting metal, the lift descended, taking them deep into a labyrinth of tunnels carved into the frozen rock. The air grew warmer as they descended, the faint hum of Dominion ships fading into silence. Evelyn studied the artifact, its glowing surface shifting patterns in rhythm with her racing heart. "What are you hiding?" she muttered. The lift stopped abruptly, and the two of them were plunged into darkness. Connor fumbled for a flashlight, its beam revealing rusted tracks and abandoned mining equipment. "Now what?" he asked, his voice echoing. Before Evelyn could answer, the cavern shook violently, sending a shower of dust and debris from above. A faint roar echoed through the tunnels, followed by distant shouts and the clatter of boots. "They found us?" Connor whispered, his face pale. Evelyn's calm crackled to life again. "Cade, I'm above you. Make it to the main tunnel entrance, and I'll get you out of here. Move fast." Clutching the artifact, Evelyn led the way through the maze of tunnels. The sounds of pursuit grew louder, and soon beams of Dominion searchlights pierced the darkness behind them. Evelyn turned to Connor. "We're not making it out unless we slow them down. Take this." She shoved the artifact into his arms. "What?" "No," Connor protested. "Go, I'll catch up." She sprinted toward the Dominion forces, pulling a small explosive charge from her pack. Connor hesitated for only a moment before running ahead, the artifact's glow lighting his path. As Dominion soldiers rounded the corner, Evelyn detonated the charge, collapsing part of the tunnel and cutting off their advance. Dust and fire filled the air, and she sprinted to catch up, her breath ragged but determined. Ahead, a blinding beam of light illuminated the tunnel as Dax's transport ship hovered just beyond the exit. Connor waved frantically from the loading ramp. Evelyn dove aboard, just as the Dominion broke through the rubble behind her. The ship roared upward, its engines screaming, leaving their pursuers behind. Dax turned from the cockpit, his sharp blue eyes narrowing as he glanced at the artifact in Evelyn's arms. "You started something big, Cade," he said grimly. "I hope you're ready for what's coming next." Evelyn held the glowing sphere tightly, her mind racing with possibilities. The Dominion wouldn't stop until they crushed every spark of rebellion, but now humanity had a chance to fight back, and she would make sure they used it. The hum of Dax's transport filled the cabin as it cut through the frigid Arctic skies. Evelyn leaned against the cold metal wall, her fingers absently tracing the artifact's smooth surface. Its glow had dimmed, but the rhythmic pulses remained, sensing almost eerily with her own heartbeat. Connor, sitting opposite her, broke the silence. "You realize what this means, right? If this thing can shut down Dominion tech like it did back there, it's a weapon. Maybe the weapon." Evelyn didn't look up. "Or it's something more. The Lithari were builders, not conquerors. If this was left for us, it wasn't to destroy, it was to unite." Dax snorted from the cockpit. "Great! Unity. Inspirational speeches don't win wars. Doc, weapons do. Evelyn glared at him but said nothing. He wasn't entirely wrong. The Dominion wouldn't fall with ideals alone. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed brighter, its glow filling the cabin with shifting, kaleidoscopic light. Evelyn gasped, clutching it tighter as visions exploded in her mind. She saw Earth, scarred by Dominion occupation but alive with pockets of defiance. She saw other planets, their skies darkened by the same oppressive fleets. And then she saw a star system at the center of the galaxy, its suns burning in a perfect trinary formation. A voice echoed through her thoughts, clear and commanding. The beacon must be lit. The visions faded as quickly as they came, leaving Evelyn gasping for air. Connor rushed to her side, his face pale. What just happened? I saw, Evelyn's voice trembled. The star system, a beacon. The artifact, it wants us to take it there. Dax turned in his seat, his brow furrowed. You're telling me that glowing paperweight just gave you directions? It's not a paperweight. Evelyn snapped, her frustration boiling over. It's the key to something bigger than any of us. The Lithari left it for a reason, and I think it's calling for help or reinforcements. Connor frowned. If that's true, the Dominion will know too. They won't stop until they have it or destroy us trying. As if on cue, the ship's console beeped urgently. Dax swore under his breath. Speaking of which, we've got incoming. Dominion interceptors. 4 of them. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Can we outrun them? Dax's hands flew over the controls. Not a chance. They're faster, and we're not exactly built for stealth right now. Buckle up, this is going to get messy. The ship banked hard, throwing Evelyn and Connor against the walls. The artifact pulsed again, brighter this time, as if reacting to the danger. Evelyn gritted her teeth and strapped in. If it's going to do something, now would be a great time. The first blast rocked the transport, sending sparks flying from the control panel. Dax cursed loudly. Shields are failing. We're sitting ducks out here. Evelyn's grip tightened around the artifact, its glow now blinding. A surge of energy coursed through the ship, and suddenly, the Dominion interceptor's targeting systems flickered and died. What the? Dax's eyes widened as the enemy ships veered off course, their engines sputtering. Evelyn stared at the artifact in awe. It's protecting us. Dax didn't waste the opportunity. Hang on. He pushed the ship into a steep dive, skimming the frozen terrain as they evaded the disabled Dominion ships. Minutes later, they emerged over a hidden valley, its surface dotted with makeshift structures and camouflaged weaponry. Resistance fighters rushed out to greet the incoming ship as Dax brought it to a rough landing. Evelyn unstrapped herself, still clutching the artifact. We need to rally everyone. If the Dominion knows about this, they'll come for us, and soon. Connor nodded grimly. Then we'd better make sure we're ready. As they stepped off the transport, Evelyn felt the weight of the artifact in her hands and the responsibility it carried. This was no longer just about Earth. The beacon had been lit, and humanity's stand was about to begin. The hidden valley teemed with activity as resistance fighters bustled about, fortifying defenses and unloading supplies from transports. The hum of makeshift power generators mixed with the clang of welding tools and shouted orders. Evelyn stepped off the ramp, the artifact pulsing faintly in her hands. Its glow caught the attention of the fighters, their eyes widening with awe and curiosity. Commander Dax Mitchell followed, his tone sharp as he barked orders. I want anti-air turrets online yesterday. Dominion sniffing at our heels, and they won't stop until they level this place. Connor stuck close to Evelyn, his eyes darting nervously between the towering mountains that encircled the valley. This doesn't feel like a fortress. It feels like a grave waiting to be filled. Evelyn ignored his pessimism. Her focus was on the artifact. Its glow had changed, brighter, steadier, as if it sensed the resolve building around them. She approached a large table in the command center tent, where a holographic map of the valley flickered. Resistance leaders surrounded it, their expressions a mix of determination and skepticism. One of them, a grizzled veteran with a cybernetic arm, pointed at the artifact. "That thing better be worth the trouble you've brought with you, Cade. We're barely holding on as it is." Evelyn placed the artifact on the table. "It's more than worth it. This isn't just some ancient relic. It's a weapon, a shield, and a signal all in one. It disabled Dominion tech twice already, and it's pointing us to something bigger, something that can turn the tide." The leaders exchanged glances. Dax crossed his arms, leaning against the table. "And what exactly is this bigger thing you're chasing? Because all I see is us risking everything for a glowing rock." Evelyn clenched her fists. "It's not a rock. It's a key left by the Lithuri, a race that fought the Dominion long before us. The artifact wants us to find a system at the galactic core. If we can reach it, we might find allies or weapons powerful enough to destroy the Dominion's fleet." The cybernetic veteran scowled. "And how do you plan to get there? Last I checked, we don't have the ships, the firepower, or the time." Evelyn stood firm. "We make the time. We scrounge what we can. And we fight like hell to give ourselves a chance. This artifact has already proven it can disrupt the Dominion. If we can amplify its power, we can create a path." Before anyone could argue further, an alarm blared across the camp. Red lights flashed, and a voice crackled over the comms. "Dominion forces incoming. Multiple dropships detected." The tent erupted into chaos as fighters grabbed weapons and raced to their positions. Evelyn grabbed the artifact and turned to Dax. "How long do we have?" "Minutes, if we're lucky," he said grimly. "They found us faster than I thought." Connor grabbed Evelyn's arm. "We can't stay here. They'll wipe us out." Evelyn shook her head. "We hold the line. This valley isn't just a hideout, it's a forge. If we can survive this, we'll come out stronger. If we run now, we lose everything." Dax nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but you'd better pray that thing of yours pulls off another miracle." As Dominion dropships roared overhead, Evelyn held the artifact close, its glow intensifying. She whispered under her breath, unsure if the Lithuri device could understand her. "Help us, just one more time." The artifact pulsed brightly, a wave of energy radiating outwards. Around the valley, Dominion dropships faltered mid-air, their engines sputtering before crashing into the mountainside. Resistance fighters cheered, but the celebration was short-lived as more Dominion forces poured in from the ground. Evelyn gritted her teeth. The artifact had given them a chance. Now it was up to humanity to prove they deserved it. The valley was alive with the sounds of war. The once quiet resistance camp was now a battlefield, with soldiers shouting orders, weapons firing, and explosions rocking the earth. Dominion forces, relentless and overwhelming, had landed in full force, determined to crush the growing spark of rebellion. But Evelyn felt something stirring deep inside her as she clutched the artifact, an unshakable conviction that this was their moment. "Evelyn, get down!" Connor shouted as a wave of blaster fire erupted from a group of Dominion soldiers flanking their position. The ground around them erupted in a shower of dirt and rock as the blasts carved through the earth. Evelyn dove for cover, narrowly avoiding a hit. The artifact in her hands pulsed with a strange intensity, its glow lighting up the shadows around them. The Dominion dropships, crippled by the artifact's previous surge, were still smoldering on the outskirts of the camp, but new reinforcements were pouring in on foot, heavily armored and organized. "They've got us surrounded," Dax said grimly, peering over the edge of a boulder. His eyes were narrowed, calculating. "We're gonna have to make a run for it, or this is the end." Evelyn's mind raced. They had no reinforcements, no heavy artillery, just a handful of determined fighters and one alien artifact. The odds were astronomically against them, but as she glanced around, she saw the same defiance in her comrades' eyes that had fueled humanity's survival for centuries. The resistance might not have the numbers or the weapons, but they had something far more dangerous, the will to fight. "Hold the line," she said through gritted teeth. "We fight back. We fight for every inch." Dax's eyes flicked to her. "You're crazy. We'll all be dead before we even get to the shuttle." Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't need to. The artifact was still glowing brightly, its pulse steady, as if attuned to her thoughts. She raised it into the air, and with a deep breath, she reached out, willing it to respond once more. "Help us," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the din of battle. "Just one more time, please." For a moment, nothing happened. The winds howled, the ground shook, and the sound of Dominion soldiers charging grew louder. But then, the artifact flared, its light engulfing the battlefield. A powerful pulse of energy rippled outward, blasting through the ranks of the approaching Dominion forces. The shockwave sent soldiers flying, their armor sparking and sizzling as their weapons malfunctioned and shorted out. The resistance fighters who had been pinned down sprang into action, their courage reigniting as the odds shifted in their favor. "Move!" Evelyn shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. The resistance fighters surged forward, weapons raised, charging at the disoriented Dominion soldiers. The battle, once a desperate struggle for survival, was now a battle for victory. The artifact had leveled the playing field, giving humanity a chance to take the fight to their oppressors. Evelyn sprinted toward a group of soldiers attempting to flank their position, firing her plasma rifle as she ran. Her eyes locked onto the nearest Dominion officer, a tall figure in black armor barking orders into a comm. Before he could react, Evelyn was on him. She tackled him to the ground, slamming her knee into his chest and knocking the comm from his hand. As he reached for his sidearm, she grabbed his wrist, twisting it with all her strength. The officer grunted in pain but refused to surrender. "You think you can stop us?" Evelyn hissed, pressing her weapon to his throat. "You think humanity's going to bow to the Dominion?" The officer glared at her, his voice low and defiant. "The Dominion is unstoppable. You are nothing." "Then we'll show you just how wrong you are," she spat. With a swift motion, she disabled his comm device and shoved him aside. The tide of the battle had turned, but it wasn't over. The Dominion would fight tooth and nail, and their reinforcements would come sooner or later. But Evelyn knew they had one more chance, one more opportunity to make the galaxy realize that humanity was no longer just a subject to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with. The artifact pulsed again, this time sending out a signal, not just through the valley, but into the far reaches of space. Evelyn looked up, knowing that someone was listening. The Resistance wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting for the galaxy. The battle raged on, but the pulse of the artifact had set something in motion. Far above the valley, hidden in the vastness of space, an ancient network of signals that had long lain dormant flickered to life. Across star systems, the long-forgotten beacons of the Lithari began to hum with energy once more. The message had been received. The galaxy's forgotten protectors were waking up. Evelyn stood at the edge of the battlefield, watching as the Dominion forces, disoriented and now heavily outnumbered, struggled to regroup. The Resistance had seized the moment, pushing them back further with each passing minute. The energy from the artifact continued to pulse in waves, rippling through the air like a tide that couldn't be stopped. She felt it in her bones now. This was just the beginning. "Evelyn!" Connor's voice cut through the chaos, drawing her attention. He was running toward her, his expression grim. "We need to fall back. Dax says they're bringing in heavier forces. More dropships are inbound." Evelyn shook her head. "We can't fall back. Not now, not when we've got them on the ropes." Connor hesitated, glancing at the distant horizon where the thrum of more Dominion warships could be heard. "You're right, but if we don't get to that shuttle, we're going to be trapped here. We've got one shot." "Then we take it," she said firmly, turning back to the battlefield. "Hold the line just a little longer. I can feel it. We're on the edge of something." The artifact is doing more than just disabling their tech. It's connecting us to something larger, to the Lithari. Connor's eyes widened. Are you telling me that this thing isn't just some weapon? It's calling to them? Evelyn nodded. I don't know how, but yes, it's more than just power. It's a beacon, a signal they left behind for when humanity was ready. And I think we're ready. Dax's voice crackled over the comms. Cade, we've got movement in the sky. Those reinforcements are bigger than we thought. I don't know how much longer we can hold them off. Evelyn turned to Connor. It's now or never. Let's get to the shuttle and get out of here before it's too late. We'll find the Lithari system, and we'll end this war. If we don't, humanity will fall. With that, she sprinted back toward the makeshift landing pad, where the Resistance's transport ship awaited. The artifact was still in her hands, its glow now steady and powerful, almost sentient. As they neared the shuttle, the distant roar of Dominion fighters echoed in the air. The shuttle's engines sputtered to life as Dax gave the go-ahead. Move, move, move. We don't have much time. Connor and Evelyn raced aboard, barely making it before the first volley of enemy fire tore through the air, missing them by mere inches. The ship's engines roared to full power, and the shuttle lifted off, narrowly dodging another barrage. As they ascended, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The artifact, still pulsing with an eerie glow, seemed to respond. She glanced down at it, unsure of what to expect. The deeper connection to the Lithari, the more it seemed like a living entity. Dax, we need to set a course for the system I saw, Evelyn said, her voice urgent. The Lithari, I think they're waiting for us. Dax shot her a look from the cockpit. You really believe that, don't you? Evelyn didn't hesitate. Yes, I do. The shuttle sped toward the stars, the valley below now only a distant memory. But the war was far from over. They had only just begun to understand the power of the artifact, and the awakening of the Lithari could be humanity's last best hope. But deep within the heart of the galaxy, the Dominion had felt the pulse, too, and they were already preparing their response. The shuttle zipped through the cold expanse of space, its hull vibrating slightly as it hurtled toward the coordinates Evelyn had seen in the visions. The artifact, now securely placed in a compartment beside her, pulsed steadily, its glow illuminating the darkened cabin. Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn toward something monumental, something that would change the course of humanity's fight against the Dominion. Dax's voice crackled over the intercom. We're entering the system, but I'm not seeing any ships, no signs of life. Just a few planets in orbit, nothing that screams liftoff. Welcome to Lithari Central. Evelyn stood up, her eyes fixed on the artifact. The ship's scanners weren't picking up anything out of the ordinary, yet she could feel it, the hum of something ancient, buried deep within the stars themselves. The artifact's pulse was getting faster, more urgent, as if it were guiding them, pulling them towards something they couldn't yet comprehend. Connor looked up from the cockpit, his face lined with worry. This could be a trap. We don't even know if these Lithari are still alive, or if they even want to help us. Evelyn turned to him, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. I don't know, but we don't have another choice. If the Dominion catches up to us, before we make contact with them. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Connor understood. The tension was palpable as the shuttle entered the outer rim of the system. The planets before them were eerily silent, their surface features frozen in time. One of them, a gas giant with swirling clouds of storm and gas, seemed to emit a faint, low-frequency signal. The artifact's pulse grew stronger as they approached. Hold on, Dax muttered, adjusting the ship's trajectory. I'm not sure what we're heading into, but there's something up ahead, a massive structure buried in the ice. It's not natural. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She could feel it now, the unmistakable hum of ancient technology reverberating through the ship. Take us there, she ordered. The shuttle's engines whined as Dax veered the craft toward the coordinates. As they descended toward the icy surface of the planet, the structure began to come into view. At first, it was nothing but a distant silhouette, a jagged outline against the harsh winds of the planet's atmosphere. But as they got closer, it became clear that this was no ordinary structure. The vast fortress-like complex rose from the ice, its towering spires stretching into the sky, built of materials that defied logic. No modern technology could have constructed such a thing. It was old, ancient even, but still incredibly intact, as if it had been waiting for them. "Whoa," Dax whispered under his breath. "That's bigger than anything I've ever seen." The shuttle touched down on the icy plains just outside the structure, the landing gear sinking slightly into the frozen surface. Evelyn felt her pulse quicken as she grabbed the artifact. It was glowing brighter now, almost like a beacon, drawing her toward the massive doors of the complex. The doors, once sealed tight, began to creak open, as though the structure had been awakened by their arrival. A low, rumbling sound echoed from within, like the ground itself was speaking. "We're not alone," Connor muttered, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "We never were," Evelyn replied, her eyes locked on the dark opening before them. "This is it. The Lithari are here, and we're about to meet them." The doors opened wide, revealing the vast hallways of the ancient complex, bathed in a pale, eerie light. There was no sound, no movement, but the energy in the air was palpable. The artifact in Evelyn's hands thrummed louder, the signal almost deafening now. It was calling them forward. The first step into the unknown was always the hardest. But they were no longer just running from the Dominion. They were running toward their destiny. The ancient structure loomed before them, its darkened halls stretching out into the unknown, and yet Evelyn felt no fear. The pulsing artifact in her hands seemed to light the way, guiding them like a beacon through the eerie silence. Behind her, the rest of the crew, Connor, Dax, and the few remaining resistance fighters, followed with determination, their faces set with resolve. The battlefield, the struggle against the Dominion, felt like a lifetime ago. Now they were standing at the precipice of something far greater. "This place feels alive," Connor whispered, glancing around warily as the wall seemed to hum with energy. The chill in the air didn't come from the cold. It was the weight of history, of something ancient and forgotten. Evelyn nodded, her gaze fixed ahead. "It's the Lithari." This structure was meant to be a sanctuary, a bastion. They were waiting for us. As they moved deeper into the complex, the walls shimmered with intricate alien markings, glowing faintly under the influence of the artifact. The air grew warmer, the temperature rising steadily as they advanced. The further they went, the more they felt it, a sense of something vast and powerful stirring in the depths of the fortress. Finally, they reached the heart of the structure, a massive chamber with high vaulted ceilings. In the center of the room stood an enormous crystalline matrix, its facets radiating a soft, ethereal light. The artifact in Evelyn's hands began to pulse violently, its glow matching the rhythm of the crystal. "This is it," Evelyn said, her voice filled with awe. "This is what it's been leading us to." Dax stepped forward, eyeing the crystalline structure. "And what exactly is it? A weapon? A ship?" Evelyn approached the matrix, the artifact in her hands humming in resonance with the crystal. "I think it's more than that. It's a key, a bridge to the Lithari's power. They weren't just a race, they were protectors, peacekeepers. Their technology is far beyond ours. This crystal, it's a repository of their knowledge, and it's the key to defeating the Dominion." As her words echoed through the chamber, a low, ancient voice reverberated in the air, sending a shiver down her spine. The voice wasn't spoken, it was felt, a telepathic transmission carried by the crystalline matrix. "Welcome, children of the stars. The time has come." Evelyn froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't alone. The Lithari were here, not as physical beings, but as part of the very fabric of the technology they had left behind. The voice continued, its tone both soothing and powerful. We are the Lithari, and we have been waiting. Your struggle is our struggle. The Dominion seeks to conquer, to enslave. But we will not allow them to extinguish the light of freedom in the galaxy. You are the inheritors of our legacy. You must wield it wisely. Evelyn stepped closer to the crystal, the artifact now vibrating in her hands. What must we do? The response was a flood of knowledge, images of ancient star maps, blueprints of powerful energy weapons, and the designs for a fleet of ships capable of challenging the Dominion's might. It was overwhelming, but at the same time, it was clear. A path forward had been laid out before them. You will not be alone. We will guide you. But first, you must awaken the fleet. It rests beneath the surface of the planet. Once awakened, you will have the power to challenge the Dominion. Evelyn's hands trembled as the images swirled in her mind, but she could see it now, the vast fleet of ships buried beneath the icy crust of the planet, waiting to rise. It was a chance, perhaps their only chance, to turn the tide of the war. Behind her, Connor spoke, his voice filled with awe. We have a fleet. Dax, ever the realist, shook his head. A fleet is nothing without a plan. The Dominion won't just sit back and let us take their prize. Evelyn turned to face her comrades, her heart heavy with the weight of what they were about to do. We have no choice. We fight or we perish. The Lithari gave us their power, and we must honor their legacy. It's up to us now, to humanity. As she spoke, the crystal's light intensified, filling the chamber with a blinding brilliance. The artifact in her hands responded, and the ground beneath them trembled. The fleet beneath the planet's surface was awakening, its dormant power now stirring to life. The last remnants of the Lithari had passed their torch to humanity. And in that moment, Evelyn knew that the fight against the Dominion was no longer just a battle for survival. It was the beginning of a new era. An era where humanity would stand not just as a species, but as a force that could reshape the galaxy. With the first wave of the Lithari fleet rising from the ice, humanity's stand against galactic tyranny had only just begun.